It's funny. So I went with basically my two best friends in the entire world. We are so close. And we have been living in different places for a long time. And so we were kind of like, oh, we need to like try to be in the same place this summer for at least a
Hmm.
week. And then I was like, what if we all quit our jobs and went backpacking for the summer? Would people do that? And everyone was like, yes. And
Oh my
so,
God. Very often these things are like one drunk evening. Oh, let's do it. Yes, let's do it, guys.
exactly, exactly. It was very Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. We were
Oh,
like, let's just do it. Like, oh my
nice.
gosh.
Hey, that's how fun our episode today is going to be. Welcome to Misadventures of a Sneaker. I'm your host, Revati. And like I said, today's episode is an absolute treat. I'm chatting with Ellie Penner, an art historian who spent a lot of time traveling across the world studying ancient art forms and now even modern art forms. Think Himalayan art in Ladakh in Nepal, stunning sculptures and murals of Ajanta Ellora, and even museum hopping across the United States. But here's the twist: Ellie does enjoy art and history, but she's obsessed with being in the mountains all the time. Raised in Colorado, she's one of those people who literally will run off into the mountains the minute she gets a free day. And so, while she was studying a lot of art history in India and Nepal, she was also hiking and trekking a lot. So, in this episode, we do get to hear a lot of outdoorsy hiking stories from Ellie. But what I enjoyed crazily was her story of this 32-day, 483-mile through hike on the Colorado Trail that she went with two of her best friends. My goodness, the stories that came out of this entire hiking trip are gold. Wildlife run ins, trail nicknames, hitchhiking to places, meeting strangers who just hand over the keys to their Tesla to Ellie and her friends for a weekend, camping adventures, well, of course, misadventures as well, hailstorms, bloody feet, and so many, the ROTFLOL kind of moments. Honestly, I don't think I have laughed this much while recording in a really long time. So, even if you're not a hiker, this episode might just make you want to grab your best friends and head out for a trip. Well, now it's time to settle in and enjoy this hilarious and heartwarming chat with Ellie. But as always, before we start the chat, let's take a quick little break. Hey, do you know we've recently launched a travel journal? A journal that is perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking in little knickknacks. Pick one for yourself or gift it to your friend or even to a kid. It'll be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find a link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and thank you. All right, let's dive into a conversation with Ellie. Wonderful, Ellie. I'm so happy to welcome you on the podcast. It's so exciting to have you. We are called the Misadventures of a Sneaker. We're a travel podcast talking about a bunch of things happily related to travel, and we'll talk about it. We've been talking for a while now. I think we've chatted, we have spoken, all of it, and I've also heard a bunch of voice notes that you sent about your different adventures that you had in different kind of outdoor activities that you've gone on. I'm very thrilled to be talking about bunch of all of that. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so glad you asked me to do this. And like you were saying, kind of encouraged me to talk about this stuff.
Yes. These stories, when we write or narrate, are just so fun to listen to and read. Like whenever I'm on a trip, I feel like I want to journal my all my trip stories
Mm.
and do a good scrapbook of all the photos that I've clicked and put them in the journal.
Hmm.
I don't want to miss the story of the trip, conversations that I've had with strangers.
Hmm.
And, through this podcast, I really want to attempt that all my guests, fabulous ones like you, get the chance to document your favorite vacation or your favorite moments in this podcast itself.
Yeah.
But other than that, we've also launched this travel journal where we want everyone to actually journal their vacation memories, because
Yeah,
it's it's
that's a
it's
good
so
point.
fun to look back at an old happy vacation and revisit the stories.
Yeah.
I really love the whole idea. And in the same way, Ellie, I'm going to extract a whole lot of stories from you about all your different vacations in this podcast. So tell me, Ellie, where are you from? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the area of Boulder. I say that because I've moved a few times within that area,
Oh.
and a lot of my family is from southern Colorado, and so there's a couple different mountain ranges. The Front Range is where Boulder is, and that's like really popular area, and then the southern mountains look completely different. And so I've kind of like always been going back and forth between them. Um, and I went to college out east in the United States. So I went to school in Virginia, which is totally different, just like completely opposite culturally, physically, geographically, which was very interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
then I studied art history there, and specifically art history from mostly like the Himalayas and Nepal and more broadly South Asia, because I was still kind of studying the more medieval, like as a time period. So after college, then I went to study Hindi in Jaipur. So I was there for a year. And then now I'm starting my PhD. I'm in my first year and like just getting started, but I'm still studying art history. Um, so yeah, that has been a crazy journey in and of itself. And I still feel like I'm completely figuring things out, but it is also I mean I was admittedly listening to your podcast in prep for this, and you were talking about like how the idea of a work-life balance collapses when you're kind of like doing something that you really love, and that is like my entire life. So it's like I there is literally no boundary. I'm always like working but also not at the same time. So it's like it's a blessing, but it's also crazy. It is
All
it's
sorts
just
of it's you have that Venn diagram, right? What I like, what I do, guys. Yours is completely overlapped then.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So, what is art history? You're saying,
Mm.
Nepal or Himalayas and things like that. Give us an example of, one or two of the things that you observe or study so that I can get a nice example when you are, or I can picture it when you are giving me an example.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So essentially I was interested in how different networks of artists are kind of like working across areas. And so also then like the way I got into that was kind of like how artworks end up in like the United States or in museums.
Mhm.
Um, Part of it is that there's a long history of extraction and looting from the Himalayas specifically. And a lot of scholarship has always kind of been based on artworks that have been taken, like as in stolen illegally and then transported illegally to auction houses in the US, and then they end up in these private collections. And so even just like a lot of artworks have been collateral to some diplomatic agreement, and they're like, oh, we'll send this amount of art as well, and then no one is in
Oh.
charge of that collection, and then it never gets studied, and then it resurfaces, and then there's all these dilemmas essentially. And so
Wow.
yeah, it's a very interesting and crazy history in how the US is involved. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but
Okay. Hmm.
so a different example than from Nepal specifically
Hmm.
is I was studying like restoration and conservation practices, and how there's a lot of like these really exciting community-based restoration efforts that are happening in the Himalayas that are kind of like the goal of them is to actually understand the context of the original artwork. So there's this temple in Mustang, Nepal, where the artwork is from the 15th century approximately, and they want to recreate the exact method that artists were using in the 15th century. And so they're
Wow.
like sourcing original clay, and like it's really innovative, and it's just the super creative project too, and it kind of like shifts a lot of ideas about like what restoration can be and like the purpose of it. And it's like super educational in that sense of trying to understand history in a different way. Um, so yeah, there's some really exciting things like that. I think now I have completely shifted to study more modern art, which is like
Mhm.
a totally different realm of things. And there's like a lot of really exciting modern artists in the Himalayas, but also just in Kathmandu, obviously, kind of in the big centers of India. There's so much really good scholarship on modern Indian art. So yeah, that is a broad glimpse, but there's a
Wow.
lot of really cool things. And then I also was really interested in a lot of art centers that have a certain type of pedagogy in India that then
Mhm.
kind of like appear throughout the world. And so like in the 1950s, there's a lot of artists who are using the same forms from like these archaeological sites like Amaravati and Barhut and Ajanta, of course, and kind of like reinscribing them. And it's coming from these like particular artist workbooks. And I guess we don't have to get into too much detail,
It's
but it
fascinating, man. I'm looking at you with my eyes like wide open. Wow. So this art, when you're saying it includes drawings and paintings as well as sculptures, both.
Yes, definitely drawings and paintings and sculptures and architecture. I think I
Hmm.
mostly focus on the drawings and paintings aspect,
Okay.
and I'm less versed in sculpture, which is under the umbrella of art history.
Mhm.
And one of my really good friends here, she focuses on sculptural histories, but I have like little experience with sculpture, but it is so exciting as well.
Oh, I enjoy going to, especially, I mean, this is a very India thing that I'm talking about
Mm,
right now is that I love going to these old temples in India where you can
mm,
go and stare at the roof and see what they've tried to draw, the colors that they have tried to use.
yeah,
It's still centuries old or beyond
yeah.
kinds. Of course, sculptures as well. They really, really interest me. So
Mhm.
I so enjoy going to these old temples. I'm quite an atheist myself, but I love
Mhm.
to just go and see the drawings and the architecture and
Yeah.
how they have made things there, and there's all a story. And if you get a good guide, then your day is made. You will just love the it's a story, right? It's just storytelling to listen to all the
Yeah.
things that they've done and heard and seen. Oh, you're doing
Hmm.
such a lovely thing, man. Wherever you go, there's stories and stories everywhere.
Yes, it's so exciting. Do you have a favorite museum?
Ooh, what a question. My God. Very recently I was in Delhi, and
Mm.
Delhi has this very new museum called the Humayun's Museum. It's near the Humayun's tomb.
Ooh.
It's very new.
Okay.
Okay, I think it opened
Huh.
maybe last year or the year before last. They
Mm.
have done it up so well. It's really right
Ooh.
now international standards, one of India's best museums.
Wow.
The stories that they have written there, the art that they have put up, bunch of gorgeous things, a very, very, very well-made museum. So
Wow.
suddenly when you ask me this came to my mind. I will think some more, and I'm sure I'll have some more that will come to my mind. But
That sounds so interesting.
we spent, I think, just 2 hours just in the museum, and then from there we got out and went to see the actual, the entire tomb structure and all of
Oh
it.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was
Okay.
really nice.
Oh, that's amazing.
What
Huh.
about yours? What's one of your favorite
Oh,
ones? Ah, tough question.
oh
You at least
God.
got time to think, man. You asked me, and I had to
I
like.
know. It's
Hmm.
impossible. Oh gosh. Okay, honestly, I really like the National Gallery of Modern Art in Delhi. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorites. I think
Oh.
it's just organized in a way that like the organization forces you to take a specific journey, and then it makes everything like much more dramatic rather than a lot of layouts are kind of just like this exhibition is in this room and this is in this room. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's very carefully designed.
Oh, I
So
haven't been there.
I like that one a lot.
Nice. Oh, I like the Smithsonian ones in DC as well, man, by the way. Those I
Oh,
just love. You can
yes.
spend an entire day in each one of them kinds. I really
Yes.
like
Oh, they're
those.
so good.
But like I'm saying, I think if we keep talking, suddenly we'll remember, oh yeah, that one too. Oh yes, this
Yeah.
one too. It'll come up like that. It's a very good question. Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
so you in passing, you mentioned about being in Jaipur to learn Hindi. What was that about? You were learning Hindi on one side, art is the other side. What was the connect?
Yes, okay, the connect. Honestly, it's so hard not to get immediately in the minutia of things, but essentially I was studying a specific commission that was coming from the government of India. And so all the sources beyond the very basic
Hmm.
information were going to be in Hindi. And so I was also thinking like if I'm going to be spending time in India in general, like I need to dedicate a lot of time to language study.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so yeah, I was also just so excited to be able to spend time learning language, like that was amazing. Um, and yeah, so there was some times in Jaipur because I mean, it's a very intensive program and like I was also kind of able to connect with different artists there as well. And so that was really exciting because it was like directly related to what I was studying. And one of the artists who I was studying, like his family is all from Jaipur and they were super kind and also allowing me to speak my very bad Hindi. So that was fun. Um, yeah, and so the program there, you're just learning Hindi, which is like it's an interesting kind of thing to do. I don't know. Because a lot of learning simultaneously also happens outside of that, where
Mhm.
like when you are just talking or listening, it's completely different than when you're in a classroom
Yes,
studying. And so it's like it was nice to be able to have that experience.
I very much agree. So I have studied Hindi when I was in school, and it's been
Mm,
okay. If I say how many years back, I have to actually do proper math and go that many years back. But I stopped studying Hindi probably when I was in class 11th or 12th or something like that. And that's very academic Hindi. Beyond
mm,
that, I love speaking Hindi. So I
mm-hmm,
conversational Hindi for me is very good, but
mm.
not academic Hindi. Because I will just say something and it need not be right, but I'm passing on my message in Hindi. So this is something that you guys are studying right now academically, which is very cool because if you had learned it just through conversations and listening to people, very high chances that your actual grammatical Hindi would be all over the place.
Yeah, there's definitely like a big difference, especially trying to read specific sources when a lot of the words for art historical terms, they don't exist before
Yeah.
the 20th century. And so it's like it's either going to be a term that like is really complicated and like pulling from these Sanskrit terms that I don't know. And so then it's like a very different type of Hindi than what is
Yeah.
just spoken or like known. And so it's like, oh
Yeah.
God.
100%. That's very
Yeah.
true. So, what
Hmm.
is your, if I'm going back to when you were a kid and all of that,
Yeah.
how was life over there and how was that? Because art history is not something, at least for us
Mm.
in India, art history as a subject is not really very common. I do not know how it
Mm.
is over there, in your social circle. But
Mm.
traveling to learn a language, all
Yeah.
these kind of things is not very common,
Mm.
usually. So how was it while growing up? Were you around folks who's very creative and, artsy, or were
Mm.
you a kid who was very, curious about seeing art in places and things like that?
That's a great question. Um, I guess in some ways, a lot of my childhood was kind of the opposite, where it was also less common and not necessarily talking to people who had been to different places. And a lot of people have always been in the same town and their families have always been there.
Mhm.
But the one thing that I think was really formative was that my grandmother, so actually my grandmother and I, it's just funny because like we are so similar and there's
Mhm.
always things about us that are strikingly the same and we don't necessarily like we'll come to find out about them. So I'm named after her as well. And we'll have these moments where I'll read a book and I'll be
Mhm.
like, this was the best book ever, you have to read it. And then she'll be like, Ellie, let me show you something. And then she'll show me in her room, like, she has an entire shelf dedicated to this author. And it's like, what? Or like, I took
Wow.
up crocheting and I was crocheting a bunch of things. And she was like, oh, I actually, like, I don't do it anymore, but I have this entire collection of like patterns I used to crochet. And it's like, what? But so the point of the story is that she has a very completely different life story that is like really amazing. But
Mhm.
um after kind of having a more difficult childhood and upbringing, she really just wanted in life to eventually be able to travel, and like it's been her dream to travel. And so after I was born, she at that point has like been retired. And since the time when I was born, she has like been able to travel for the first time, and like she has like gone so many places
Wow.
in multiple times. She's like been to China 3 times, and she just loves, like, this is truly, and she's still, it's crazy. She's
She's a rock
almost,
star. Wow.
yeah, she's almost 78, I think, or 79. She might be
I
78.
love it.
And she's still like she'll still travel, which is just crazy. So she has always been very inspiring to like
Mhm.
learn new things. And she's like, I don't know. Um, yeah, she has kind of been interested through books her whole life in exploring. So like in my eyes, the way I've seen her whole life through my view has been like this traveling woman. So that, I guess, would be the basis for wanting to see more of the world.
So does she come and narrate stories like we always hear of grandma's tales, right? So does she come and
Yes,
narrate stories of all her travels, people she's met, things that she's seen?
yeah. Yeah, and
Oh,
she's really
lovely.
good about making like scrapbooks of her image of her pictures. I'm not good at that, and I wish I was, because she can like, I mean, it's so nice to be able to look
Yeah,
at
yeah.
things actually.
They look so pretty when I see someone else's.
Oh, yes.
Oh, and like I said, Ellie, we have just launched a travel journal. So I'm going to use all the inspiration that you've given me from about your grandmom's journal, and I'm going to do all the scrapbooking and journaling in this journal as well.
Yay.
Definitely, you must share some pictures of her, journal pages and all that. It'll give us lots of
Oh,
lovely
yes, I
ideas.
will.
I anyway love doing all this journaling and scrapbooking, especially when it comes to all
Yeah.
my travel
Yeah, I
memories and
will.
all.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so this was where travel interests me. What about art? Which places have you traveled to? Do you for studying art?
Okay, yeah.
Within the US as well, outside of US. Which are the places that
Mm,
you've seen?
yeah. I think within the US, a few museums.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I went to study for 6-ish months, 6 to 7
Yep.
months in
Mm-hmm.
in Kathmandu, and I was at a school. It was mostly for Tibetan language, and there I was able to study a lot of art history actually. And there's also just so many really good art historians at Tribhuvan University in Kathmandu as well. And so there's like a good structure for the discipline, which is awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and because I was based, I guess, in Kathmandu, I
Mm-hmm.
then was able to actually spend a lot of time up in the mountains, which I was like mostly interested in because I was like, I am used to being in the mountains and I just miss being in the mountains so much. And I don't know, there's something very refreshing about being up in high altitude. So I don't know. I was interested in going up for other reasons, but then there was a lot of art history projects happening too that I was able to find out about. And then after being in Nepal, I spent the summer with my old advisor and a different professor. They were both doing research in Ladakh. So I was able to basically just go there with them, which was awesome, and spend the summer there. And so they were doing really interesting parallel projects, kind
Ah,
of.
awesome.
Yeah, it was like an ideal situation because it wasn't my research, and so I was kind of able to just like be able to learn a bunch of things and not have to like, I wasn't the one solving anything, so it was
The
just like,
research
oh,
assistant kinds?
yes, exactly.
Win-win, right? Win-win.
Yeah, it was a win-win. It was perfect. And yeah, so Nepal and then Ladakh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Nepal, you said, was 6 months or so, right?
Mm.
And Ladakh was?
Ladakh was so it was for the summer. So it
Hmm.
was I want to say like maybe 8 weeks.
A dream place to stay in, man. Really beautiful
Yeah.
place. I love. So I haven't been to Ladakh, but I have been to the sister equivalent called Spiti Valley.
Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
it's supposed to
Yes.
be another
Yeah.
slightly more untouched Ladakh version kinds.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
spent
my
a couple of
gosh.
weeks there. Oh, such a beautiful place. My
Oh,
God.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
My old professor, she actually wrote her dissertation in the Spiti Valley. And yeah, she like loves that place so much.
If you're coming this time and you're going to be in any one of
Yeah.
these places, I'm going to be a research assistant,
Oh
okay?
my God.
So you mentioned that when you
Yes.
were in Nepal, you mentioned your love for outdoors, your love for going on mountains and feeling what a blissful. I saw your expression and you were all like, "Oh, I just love it," and you went all blissful kind of expression in your face. Love for outdoors and Nepal. So, what did you wear? Which other places that you went to in Nepal, exploring mountains, going up, bunch of treks?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great hiking just
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And it's funny because that's how Boulder is as well. Like, I'm so used to having a hiking trail within immediate proximity to wherever I am. And so it's just like it's very similar in that sense. And my family is like they put me to shame. They're like way more outdoorsy than I am, honestly, and
Oh
they
my
like
God.
I know it's kind of scary.
No, it's amazing. I really like it. I think when these things are get ingrained in you when you're young,
Hmm.
it's where you kind of catch up on, and you feel like doing it over and over again because it's nostalgia as well. Like,
Yes,
oh, I went
yes.
up, it's like that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
as soon as you said Nepal, the next sentence that came from all this, it's like boulders. Just imagine.
Yes. Exactly, the
So that those
nostalgia.
things really work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I was able to hike around a few places closer to Kathmandu before going up. And I had gone up to the Himalayas first with like my class actually. And we had just gone up for like a very brief, maybe like a week. And
Hmm.
we were meeting with specific people mostly like for class. But once we got up there, there was this guy, Jung Jung, he works on a lot of projects related to development, but also in the sense of like art restoration. So like he does a lot of stuff related to art history, actually. He was like, I think it'd be more fun if instead of driving to the place we have to go to next, we just walk over the mountain. And so we're like, yes, definitely. And then I ended up me and my friend Ronan, who still works for him and they work on they like do geomapping of river valleys that have like been impacted by floods to track the
Hmm.
flood damage. It's a really interesting project.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah, and so they still work together. And so Ronan and I had stayed with Jungdrung for a couple more days and were able to kind of like hike every day with him. And then from there, I was able to kind of get a sense of the different climate because even though obviously it is similar to like high altitude mountaineering
Hmm.
in the US, it is also very different to think about like the approach to backpacking and to trekking, which is more like, well, I don't know. I guess it depends on the trek, but there's more of a sense of you could stay in a village rather than trying to find a trek where you're just looking for camping sites with tents. It's like you would plan the trek
Yeah.
around villages so that you're staying in a village at each night, which like
Yep.
makes a lot of sense when there are
Hmm.
villages in the mountains, whereas in Colorado it's like there's not the same type of
That's
yeah.
right.
So it's just a different
And Nepal has bunch of those tea houses kind of settlements
yes.
as well, where
Hmm.
it's outside of a village, but it's a place meant just for hikers or trekkers to come and stay the night kinds. It's a very
Yeah.
convenient kind of setup
Hmm.
that they have.
Yeah, super convenient.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was how your Nepal trekking and hiking story started off.
Yes, yes. So then it was like at the end, before I was going to go to Ladakh, my two friends, Anisha and Lucia, we were like, because here's the thing, again, like I love backpacking and camping in general. And so I was like looking for every opportunity in mountain biking and all this stuff. And so Anisha and Lucia were like, oh, you should lead the charge, a three of us girls backpacking trip, which is
Okay.
like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, absolutely. Don't worry. Like, we are going to
Back
make
of my hand, why not?
And it was literally like the biggest disaster there ever was. Oh my God, it's so funny thinking back, talking about confidence. The confidence I had in that, I was like, girl, no. But basically, we were going to hike the Annapurna Base Camp trek, which is like it's a very popular route.
It is popular. It is one of the tough ones as well.
Yeah. And so you should, and I would say like even I should have been more prepared, but we didn't even get that far, so it didn't even matter. But but like before we even got there, you have to have a permit, and we got the permits, and you technically have to have a guide, but a
Okay.
lot of people will just get a guide to sign off on their permit and then they go without a guide. So that's what we were gonna do. And so we have that all worked out. And then you have to take a bus. So we took a bus from Kathmandu up to the mountains, and it took probably like 9 hours, 9 to 11 hours. Like it's a long bus. And on the bus, which is not going to stop, I realized that I had left all the permits back at my friend's house in Kathmandu. And so I call him and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have any of the permits and I have no idea how you would get them to us. But he wasn't even home, but he was like, oh, but don't worry, I have a friend who's going up to the mountains tomorrow and like could meet you then. And we're like, okay, that will work out. Somehow we'll get these permits back to us. And it was just like, then once we got the permits, we have to like go get them checked. And we are like down to the wire running to the office because it's going to close. And then we'd have to wait another day. And so like we get there and they've just closed. And so like it's like at every step there were signs from the universe that were being like, do not go. But we're like, no, we're gonna make it work. And so eventually we finally get on the trail, and it was a disaster. Like all of our backpacks were way too heavy. We were moving really slow, and like we should have arrived at our first night well before the sunset, but we were getting there at like 7 p.m. I don't know how. And then the next days it just started pouring rain, like literally pouring rain all day. And so like we
My
would just
God.
spend time like sitting under shelter. Like
Cooped up.
it was
Oh
so
my God.
oh God. And
Oh
then
God.
eventually the worst part, which was so funny to think back on, the thing with leeches is that they don't actually hurt at all. And on every leech, which is just like they're tiny insects
That's right.
at first. They're very, very small. They're covered in this layer that once it attaches to your skin, it numbs your skin. And it also makes your blood run thin. So it's like, it's this weird kind of like slime that has all of these properties that makes it so that you don't feel them at all, but they're actually just like draining blood from you, which is crazy. And so, because of all the rain, all of the leeches that had been like either on tree leaves or like in the ground, they were all like coming up and down at the same time. And so we were in this situation where we didn't know that there were leeches on us until there were so many, and we were like, this what is going on? And so even I had, oh my God, like it's so crazy to think about,
My
but I had
God, first of
like
all, you said leeches and that was plural, and that put me off. And then you were saying so many before that. I'm like, what is this? Also, leeches on leaves. I've always seen leeches only, on shrubs or things like that. You had leeches like
Mhm.
on tree leaves?
Yeah, there were coming like, well, I don't know. They were essentially like raining down from parts of the trees.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
we had some on our like heads and I know in our hair, like on attached to our head. It was crazy. Like I had one behind my ear and it took me maybe 3 hours before I realized because like
That's
I
right.
didn't
Someone else would have to see it and then realize, because like you said, they
exactly.
they, they really numb that area, so you won't even know. There's no
Yeah,
pain,
yeah.
there's no irritation, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, they become nice and round, and so you can spot them.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
That's the only way that you can spot them. Eee, yuck.
Yeah.
God.
And we also you have to keep walking, or if you stop walking, then they'll be able to come up from the ground and like climb up your shoes. And so like it was this dilemma of we needed to stop to like take them off of us, but at the same time, if every time we stop, they would like start coming up faster. So we were like, this is the worst
Like one
situation.
of those school math problems, right?
Yes.
The speed of the train from A to B, whereas from B to A. So taking the leeches
Exactly.
off versus them coming and attacking you, which is faster?
Yes. Oh my God.
Yee.
Yeah.
In
So it was on
hindsight,
the
we are
third
laughing,
day.
but my goodness, that must have been horrible, man. Wow. So then how long did you go on?
We were laughing the whole time, honestly, even though it was like a disaster. We were like, this is just ridiculous. And it was quite funny in the time. But that was on the third day. And then literally after that, like we got to the place we were gonna sleep that night. And then we heard from somebody who lives in that area that there was like a nice hot spring nearby that you could like go dip your feet in or just relax nearby.
Mhm.
So the whole night we were like, what if we just stayed here one more night and then we'll keep going. Like we'll keep going on the trek. And we're like, yeah, let's just do that. So then we stay there for the day. And then the entire day we were just like, we need to, what are we doing? Like, this is
Yeah.
not, I feel like once we've given up for one day, we've
Mm.
already given up mentally. Like, this is
That
not,
is true. That is true. You need the momentum, and only that's one thing that works. Otherwise, yeah, that's very true.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So that was the end of our trek. And it was just, oh my
So
God.
was the
Really
way
fun.
down the same route as the way up, full of leeches and all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God,
Yeah.
horrid, really horrid. Okay, that was very exciting, Annapurna. I won't even say base camp. I'll say some base of the base kinds that you guys went up to. But did you guys go to the hot springs?
We did, yeah. It was just beautiful, like really, really
Mm-hmm.
nice. It took you down a little bit into like a more tropical environment too, which
Mm-hmm.
was like crazy to see.
Wow.
So yeah, it was nice. It was definitely the easy route.
The trek starts from which city? Is it Pokhara or some other place?
Yeah,
It's Pokhara.
it starts in right outside of Pokhara.
Right
Hmm.
outside, yeah. So when I
Yeah.
was in Nepal, this is maybe 10 years back or so, we did a short trek.
Oh, nice.
And I'm the kinds who treks very slowly because I love seeing the
Mhm.
stones beside me and the leaves. My
Yeah.
husband is one who likes, he'll just run up. Poor guy, I made him come up and down. So I'm like, what? You missed the stone? It's so pretty. And he's like, okay. He's a very patient guy, man. So then finally we reached this particular place, which is tea houses that they have in Nepal.
Mm,
Very, very normal room. These tea houses, these rooms are very basic. So it's very nice, comfortable.
yes.
And it started pouring like there's no tomorrow. So we are drenched. Well, we were gone with a guide. The guide said that, the place that we are, there is a village very close by. It's just like a half an hour, 45-minute walk.
Yeah.
We're like, chalo, let's go. Why not? Anyway, we are wet. So we just threw our bags inside the room. Beautiful, quaint little place. And it was so
Oh.
nice. And, I have no idea how these folks are so welcoming. They'll see someone. We are drenched. But they're like, oh my God, oh, you're drenched. Let me give you a hot cup of tea. And
Oh.
So then we went, we had a nice cup of tea, we walked around. It stopped raining. We had a beautiful, like the meadow on the way was gorgeous. We came back to the room and again it started pouring. So it poured and poured the entire evening.
Mm.
Whenever I go to such place, I love to see the stars in the sky and all of that. So I got up
Yeah.
in
Oh.
between and it was completely overcast. I'm like, oh, even I can't see the stars.
Oh.
We said, it's okay, chalo. We had a good time walking up.
Yeah.
Oh, in the morning, the way the sky cleared up and the sunrise that we saw was
Oh.
unbelievable. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
It was very, very magical.
Oh.
Really pretty.
Wow. Oh
Really nice.
gosh.
Okay, you want to go back to Nepal? I can see
Oh,
your.
yeah,
I
literally.
had no leeches, promise.
Whenever I go hiking here, oh God, ever since hiking on the Colorado Trail this summer, part of me is like, oh my gosh, I really want to go back to like every morning you wake up in your tent and like for the sunrise, and it's just like unbelievable, and it's so hard to just give that completely up. Like, oh my gosh, even though it would not be feasible to live
Yeah,
like that, and
that's
I know
true.
that. And also I'm over romanticizing because I also remember how like my hands would be too cold to like even move, and so like it would take me 20 minutes of just like warming them up to be able to start making food or anything. But in my head
But
I'm like,
yes.
oh.
No,
Oh.
I really can get it. You know what? I recorded an episode very recently with this guy who's the first Indian to have skied solo, unsupported, unassisted to the South Pole.
Oh wow. Oh, that's
So
crazy.
it took him 50 plus 51 days, I think, to do the skiing. So he was saying the last days,
Mm.
he can see the South Pole station there, he can see the buildings there. He stopped 11 kilometers before and he said, I felt so sad that it
Oh.
was so nice. The 51 days was unbelievable
Oh,
because everything was
yes.
planned.
Mm.
The calmness was so good. I didn't carry music.
Mm.
And then that 11 kilometers, I just sat down and I looked away. And really, the trip is
Oh,
over. And then this end, when I'm listening to him, I'm like,
heartbreaking.
51 days of solitude. How could you do it?
Yeah.
But then I can see your
Yeah.
expression as well as to how you just love the fact of, just being out. So,
Yeah.
oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
then now, since you have mentioned the trip, which is our conversation for the podcast,
Yes.
I would love to know about the Colorado Trail and, how you went about planning it.
Yeah.
So I heard through, a bunch of my friends, almost all in the US, about there are three gorgeous, you guys call it what the through hiking is what the phrase
Yes.
is, right?
Through hiking. Yes, exactly.
What is through hiking if you had to
Yes.
define through hiking?
Okay. Yes. Through hiking implies that you are so.
You're such a good student. You start with implies. Open quote.
Literally, no, that's
Literally did that.
that's so funny. Oh my gosh. So there's
Mhm.
three, they call it the Triple Crown. There's
Mhm.
three really big trails in the US that are considered like the ultimate through hikes. And so there's the Appalachia Trail, there is the Pacific Crest Trail, and then there is the Continental Divide Trail.
Mhm.
And all of them are like 2,000 miles. And the reason it's difficult in some ways, obviously it's difficult because it's 2,000 miles of trekking through the mountains, and like you have to sleep in your tent, and like you're providing all your own food and everything. But the actual reason that it's hard is because you don't have that much of a window to make it through all the seasons. So with the Continental Divide Trail, because you start in such high altitude, and you end in high altitude in Montana, you only have a very short season between snow, when snow starts and when snow ends. And so it's like you have to be able to make it all this distance by the time the snow has melted on the San Juans, which is probably like late June at the earliest, to
Mhm.
when snow will start to fall again in September in Montana. So it's like you actually don't have that much time. There's not much room for error.
It's almost like a daily timed. Thick kinds.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Oh,
It is like it is so intense. And so
very disciplined.
yeah, it's
Mm.
very disciplined. And the people who do it all the way are just in like they are so huge planners, very disciplined.
Yeah.
And so the Colorado Trail intersects with the Continental Divide for 300 miles. And
Mhm.
it's the same trail for 300 miles. And the Colorado Trail itself has about 200 miles more. So it's almost 500 in total. But that does not intersect. So it takes you through different parts of Colorado that you wouldn't see if you were on the Continental Divide, but it is largely based around the Continental
Okay.
Divide Trail. So it's funny. So I went with basically my two best friends in the entire world. We are so close. It's very hard to describe, but even my family, so like this winter, my
Mhm.
brother, he is dating this girl and like she came to stay with us for some time and like she's amazing. But it was
Mhm.
funny because she already knew about my two best friends and she needed to meet them because they are so much a part of like we are all a part of each other's families.
Truly friends like family. It's not
Yeah,
like friends are family. They've moved to that level.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
And we have been living in different places for a long time. And so we were kind of like, oh, we need to like try to be in the same place this summer for at least a week was the
Hmm.
goal. And then I wanted to take a job that would be outdoorsy, so I wanted to work at this state park and it was a very funny job. It was a really, really good time. And then I was like, what if we all quit our jobs and went backpacking for the summer? Would people do that? And everyone was like, yes.
Oh
And
my
so,
God. First of all, people quitting their jobs at
yeah,
the same time. Very often these things are like one drunk evening. Oh, let's do it. Yes, let's do it, guys.
exactly.
You guys are
Exactly.
planning it so much better.
Uh,
Good. Mature set of friends, I say.
it was very Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. We were
Oh,
like, let's just do it. Like,
nice.
oh my gosh. So we all convened and it was so funny. So my best friends are John and then Tia. And the day before we were starting the trail, John, he was staying with his sister in London
Hmm.
and he wanted to see the Taylor Swift concert. So it was like literally 12 hours before he's in the woods for a month. He was at the Taylor Swift concert and we're like, oh
Unbelievable,
my
man.
God. Like it was so chaotic.
Priorities, priorities, you see.
Priorities, priorities, exactly. And I think this is also just like how our friendships have always been, where I'm always slightly more worried about how things will go. And so like I will not like over prepare, but like overthink. And John and Tia are like the most encouraging and perseverant people ever. And they do not need to over prepare or overthink at all because like anything happens,
Spontaneous.
they're fine. They will literally be fine. And so like when we got to the trailhead, I had already spent a month hiking in those shoes and like putting weights in my backpack and like preparing. And they were like, yeah, I really haven't done any working out in like a couple weeks. I was like, oh no, what's going on? I'm like
Oh my
worried.
God.
And they're like, Ellie, why? We're fine. Like, why are you worried? And I was like, oh my God. But the whole time it was funny because I would be more worried and they would be fine. Like they were the ones who were supporting me, even though like in my head I had prepared more, whatever. It was just the whole dynamic. Oh my God.
Very entertaining.
Yeah, we literally spent the entire trail laughing. We were laughing all day long. And like people every single time that we would go in to pick up our food, which I can also explain, people would be like, "Oh, are you guys sick of each other? Are you guys fighting every day?" And we're like, "No, we're literally like laughing the
Oh
entire
my
time."
God. So perfect. You're so perfect to do this with like two of your closest friends.
Yeah,
Very
it was
nice.
awesome. Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
so I think you were the one who's done most of the planning in this entire trip. I can kind of get that
Yes.
already.
Really. So I had like prepared all, so for the food,
Mm.
basically we shipped boxes of our food for each week ahead to the different towns that we would like pass through. And then like when we'd get to that town, we'd go to the post office and you have to like show your government ID and then like you can pick it up. So I had like written out all of the locations and the addresses and then like I had sent pictures of that to John and Tia. And they like copied them word for word, but to the point where they put my name instead of their own. And I was like, you guys, what? That was the one thing you should
Little bit of effort was required. It's like those, when you order for birthday cakes and you send the restaurant message, please write a message,
Yeah,
happy birthday, Tia. And they'll write the whole thing, please write a message, happy birthday, Tia.
exactly, exactly. I was like, wait, like you guys. Oh my God.
At first, I wondered that whether you send the food for everyone together, you've done that yourself. That was my first question that came in my mind, and you said, no, at least they've done that. And then when you said that, I said, no, picture, I was wondering whether you would say that they didn't even bother to download that picture. They just said, okay, no, Ellie's done it, so I'm sure it'll be right. It's fine.
No, literally. Oh my God, they might as well have done that. Yeah. Oh my
Laziness
God.
personified.
Yeah, they were like, oh my
So how
God.
much of planning needs to go into this? Because you were saying that
Mm.
you've chosen the towns that you're
Mm,
sending this package to, which means you also need to be fairly perfect in terms of your
yeah,
timelines. And it's not that so one day, oh, I don't feel like walking that much. Let's
yeah,
just skip this town and go to another town. You can't do that as much because you've already planned your
yeah,
stops, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was kind of like we also, I mean, it's weird because it's in some regard there was no flexibility, but then also every day there was kind of room to make adjustments. And
Hmm.
especially with the incline in the altitude, there were some days where we were able to go so much further. And then there were some days where like we would do 13 miles and it was completely uphill. And like we literally were like, we can't go any further. Oh my gosh. There was one day where there was a huge thunderstorm and there was hail. And so it like looks like snow, but it's like really hard, like
Ice.
pellets, yeah,
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
ice.
Hmm.
And we were like, we literally used the hail to ice our feet because our feet were so swollen and like
Oh
even like
my
bleeding a
God.
little bit because of just how much we'd walked like 18 miles that day, but it was very strenuous and we weren't expecting it to be as hard as it was. And so like we sat there and we were like we were icing our feet and we're like we are not going any further today. So
Mm.
there was definitely moments of changing the plan.
Mm. So I think you built in the flexibility in your plan, somewhat, something
Yeah.
like that.
hmm So it's like each day you have to make sure that you maximize the water supply because
Mm.
we're also going places that there would only be maybe like two streams and they would be like really small. So like you have to make sure you're filling up all your water. And then there's some days where like if you're going to be walking next to a river for 5 hours, you don't need to fill up. You can
Mm.
carry so much less water and not have to worry.
Yeah.
And so some days were like also just harder because you're carrying like a gallon of water with you at all times. So yeah, some days we
Ooh.
had to like really carefully plan when we were gonna stop and
Hmm.
like how far, if we were gonna be able to camp somewhere that was nearby to water. And if we weren't able to camp nearby water, we'd have to like really carefully plan out so that we'd have enough water to make food and then also to like get up in the morning and make it to the next place of water.
That's
So it
right.
was like water dictated the entire trip, which was
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was nice in some ways and also like it was kind of like a game to figure out how to make it work the best. But yeah, and like it's funny because like the entire time I was like glued to the map and it was always in my hand. And like in all the photographs, there was like,
Physical map.
yeah,
Oh, wow. I was going to ask, is there an app that does this whole thing for you, or do you actually use a physical map? What fun. Physical map is fun.
yeah, it was really fun actually to carry the map. And we like really got good at reading the map and just like knowing, I don't know, it was really fun. But like John and Tia were so much better about like it's just funny. We're so, like I would be like glued to it and they're like, "No, like blah blah blah. This is," and I'm like, "Oh, they're always right." They're literally always right.
Yeah, some people are just generally good with directions, or good with the compass or things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I love carrying maps around, man. Even when we are
Yeah.
traveling somewhere and we go to the B&B or a hotel and they'll have a map, right? I love picking up those maps, even though all of those things are there on Google Maps and things like that. But still, there's
Mm-hmm.
a joy of following physical
Yeah.
maps. I'm sure there will be an app or something that will also help you with this trail.
Yes, there is. There is
Hmm.
also it allows you to comment on like how the water supply is. So like some people
Right.
can comment and be
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this source of water is like really high right now," or like this source doesn't exist anymore. You have to go half a mile further. So like yeah, there is a space for that. Also, so like we had our phones on us, but like a lot of times like there were days when like we had obviously no service
Hmm. Oh,
and
yes, that's true.
mostly there was like no point in having the phone, but on days when we would have
Pictures.
service. Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's true.
These days, phones are just
They
cameras. It's
are just
only how
cameras.
many megapixels?
Yeah.
There are 5 cameras with 72 megapixels. Boom, that's all it is.
No,
It's not
literally.
about anything else.
They
Yeah.
have such good cameras on them. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my fun, fun. So then, on an average, you'd be hiking, say, from what time in the day do you usually start and what time you would you
Okay.
usually end, on an
So
average?
I this is all because of me and I apologize to my friends for having to deal with me, but like I've always been of the mentality that like we should start as early as possible. So we would get up at
Mm-hmm.
4:30 a.m. and I know and start
Wow.
and it was actually crazy because we would go to bed, I'm not joking, before the sun would set. And we were just in this routine of like at 6 p.m. we'd be like, all right, time to go to sleep. Like we're so tired. We would literally eat dinner at like 4. And yeah, that was our routine. So essentially also we had to account for like we would have to tie our food in these bear bags that are essentially if a bear was trying to get your food, it wouldn't be able to detangle the roping system of a bag that's hanging from a tree. So it's like the system where like you have to tie a rock, throw it up on the tree, and then like levy it down to like place your food as high on the tree as possible, and then like rope it to the tree. So every morning, then we'd have to take it down and then get all our food out.
It's an everyday exercise in the evenings.
Yeah, every single day. And
Wow.
we got it like by the end, we were doing it so fast. And like the first week it would take
Pros.
us so long. So it was it's like there's just a lot of little things like that that like once they become routine, you just get so much better at it. But it would probably take like a little while to do that in the morning and then eat breakfast and then just get started and take down your tent and everything. And
Mhm.
yeah, so we'd probably get on the trail. If we got on the trail by like 6, we
Mhm.
would eat lunch around maybe 11, 10:30, 11, and then t pretty typically we would be done hiking by like 3 or so.
Okay.
And then
Hmm.
we'd set up our tents, eat dinner, and then we'd just go to bed.
And you and three of you all sort of managed your speeds to kind of move together.
Yeah, so John is like he's very tall and he would walk so much faster than us. And
Yeah.
Tia and I would be
The
like,
one stride would be one leg is here, the other leg be somewhere else. Yeah. Oh
exactly,
God, not fair,
exactly.
man.
We would always be like, John, he is so, and he'd always be like, I'm so slow. We're like, no, you're literally so fast. And it would be funny because like Tia and I would be pretty much going the same speed, and we would watch John climb the entire mountain by the time we get to the bottom of it, and we're like, wow.
Take pictures from there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we were going the same speed. And then when we were in the so once you get to around almost 12,000 feet is when the trees can't grow anymore because there's not enough
Mhm.
oxygen for trees to grow. And so like people call it the tree line.
Tree
Once you're
line, yeah.
above tree line, you're very susceptible to lightning and because thunderstorms will happen like within five, like you could have blue skies and then 10 minutes later a thunderstorm. So like
No, I heard the Colorado Trail specifically has way more number of thunderstorms. Also because this tree line thing, because it's
yes,
above the tree lines, you don't have trees to, block or take the beat kinds. Wow.
exactly. So you're supposed to minimize how much time you spend at that altitude because of the danger. So when we were going through those parts, like you're just going up and down and up and down and up and down. Like we counted one day we had to go over 18 peaks and it was just like literally up and down. And so you want to like close the window as much as you can of like the time. So like if you're gonna take a break right
Mhm.
before you start to go up and then go up as fast as you can and down as fast as you can and then take another break. So we were like really sticking together for that time and like trying to make sure we were going the same pace so that we were like as a group. Um, but yeah, otherwise we would I mean in even some days for like a few hours we would just be like walking alone and then we'd like catch up to each other. We didn't really listen to things. I'm trying to think. We were definitely listening to some Taylor Swift at the time. I remember that.
Taylor Swift being your common
I know.
interest for you guys. So, Ellie, I read somewhere that this Colorado Trail is supposed to be one with the highest number of 14K feet peaks around it.
Yes.
I think there are 53 mountains around Colorado which are beyond,
Mm-hmm.
the 14K mark.
Yes.
So it's apparently one of the highest in the US.
Yeah.
The next or something is California with some 12 versus
Mm-hmm.
Colorado having 53, and
Yeah.
so it's so the panoramas that you see when you are
Yes.
in the trail is apparently just unbelievably phenomenal and gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who's surrounded by so many peaks all the time.
Yeah. It
You
is
guys never
crazy.
had altitude issues and all of that?
Yeah, no. Luckily no. But so many people do have altitude issues and it
Yeah.
can be really
And that too, when you're saying, this the wonderful Mr. John coming
I know.
just that
Oh
day
my
from
gosh.
London on a flight. So he has done nothing in terms of, acclimatizing
Exactly.
himself. It's,
I know.
wow.
I know. I think that if he
Well,
was
that's
not like from Colorado, he would have absolutely been so sick because it would not have
yeah,
worked.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So how many days long was this entire trail
Mm.
for you guys?
It was 32 days. And honestly, we were very lucky because we didn't have any rain until the third week. So like,
Oh, lovely.
yeah, and honestly, it was not that bad. Because by the time it's like late summer, there's a lot more thunderstorms, but we had started the trail in early summer, so we were
Okay.
lucky. And yeah, the thunderstorms are also just like clockwork where they'll happen in the afternoons at like 2 p.m. and
Hmm.
then that's it. So it's like
Okay.
you can time things
You can time
around
that.
them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was nice. Hmm.
No, but hailstorms are quite a thing. If you're sitting inside your tent, tuck, 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 tuck,
Oh
tuck,
my
tuck, 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 you'll be
gosh.
hearing the hails. That's
Yeah.
quite a thing. My God. So how do you see wildlife as well in this
Oh,
entire trail?
yes. Oh, I love the wildlife. It's so, oh, they're just so cute. All the animals. I'm a sucker for animals. Any animal I love immediately. Oh my gosh. So on the trail, we saw elk and even moose, which are insane. Like those animals, they're gigantic. They're just like, wow. Seeing them in real life is crazy. And
Do they have like huge horns as well?
yes, they do.
And they're very cute.
They're very cute because their horns are very fuzzy too. Oh my gosh. And then of course there are bears. And then the other thing is that there are mountain lions, which are very scary animals, but luckily they like really stay away from humans. And so
Hmm.
like mountain lions are the joke is that if you see a mountain lion, you're already dead because they're very stealthy and like they stalk their prey,
Oh,
but like you don't see them unless they're gonna kill you. And like it's very low chances if you're doing things right that they will stalk you. But it's like, yes, so that's always kind of a concern.
oh.
Um, and I actually have seen from a distance one from my grandparents' house because they live in the mountains, and so there's a lot of more
Hmm.
wildlife where they are. Yeah, mountain
Okay.
lions are crazy. They just have like these very long, very thick tails that like, oh,
Hmm.
I don't know, it's crazy. But
I was wondering will cute come in this entire sentence or not? I'm also the category where I find all animals cute.
yes, exactly. They're so cute. Oh gosh. Oh, I love big animals. And then there's these like tiny animals. So there's the pika or pika, people say both,
Mm.
but that are just like these really tiny, like essentially mountain, almost like mice, but they're cuter than that. They're very, very cute. And they like collect wildflowers. And so they'll have flowers in their mouths. Oh my God.
Oh my
So
God, that's like
precious.
a Disney kind of
Yes,
cartoon look.
it
So
is.
cute.
Oh, and then there's marmots, which are also they could be the size of a small dog, I would say. And they're kind of
Okay.
it's kind of like a rabbit.
But they do come under the rabbit or the rat family, I think. I'm not sure which family. I think one of the family,
Yeah.
but a XL size of that
Yes,
animal
yes.
kinds,
They're very
right?
chubby, like they're very large. Like
Mm.
they're so cute. Oh my.
The cute one is there.
Yes. Oh, oh my gosh.
Oh, so you generously see all of these cute creatures?
Yeah, yeah, they would be like they would
Oh.
pop out all the time and they would just be everywhere. And at first like we would look at every single one and even actually towards the end we would still kind of like be like, "Oh, there's a marmot. There's a marmot. There's a marmot." And it's like we would never get sick of seeing them. They're just so cute. Oh
Oh,
my
very
gosh.
cute. So you said that you also you stop at bunch of towns, for what are refueling and things like that. How do you plan that? What are these towns? And how do you have towns in the middle of a trail? How does it happen geographically and all of it? Tell me.
Yeah. So we
Mm.
would plan to hike every week into get to the post office. And basically, you have to like hike to the nearest road and then you just wait on the road until a car comes and you literally ask a random stranger to take you into town. And so sometimes like
Hitchhiking kinds,
yes, this is the hitchhiking.
where you like show your thumb and ask for
Yes,
a lift.
exactly.
Is literally like that?
Yeah, I have photos of us literally, like, I'll send you after this, but like, you literally, we would just sit there with our thumbs up. And it would be so funny because sometimes within 5 minutes, you have like three people offering to be like, oh, yeah, I live here. I can easily take you wherever you want to go. And then there's sometimes where like an hour of just like people speeding past you, not looking. And then we're like, yeah, no one is gonna come today. Like, it was such a
Oh.
weird experience. But there were two times when literally complete strangers. Like I cannot make this up. It was crazy. People would be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I actually was gonna bike into town anyways, so like you can take my car. Go ahead. Go ahead and take the car." And then hands us their
Ah,
keys of their car and literally would take a bike on the trail and they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna bike into town later, so just park it in this place." And like I'll come pick it up. And we were like, "What?" Like,
what?
and we're like, "Is this like, are we somehow going to be like scammed?" No, it was a legitimate offer. Oh my God, it was so crazy.
Insane. What is this trust
I
level?
know, I know.
Oh,
And so now I'm like, wow, people in the Colorado mountains are a different level of like
that's right. Yeah,
trusting
that's right.
because wow. And I mean, to be fair,
Wow.
if you live near somewhere where there's a lot of backpackers and like you see the people with their backpacks, I mean, you can tell that like, we are genuinely backpacking. I guess it does make sense, but it's still crazy. And
It's still
it
crazy.
is
Okay, giving a lift
crazy.
is different, but just giving your car
Yeah.
away is very different. I mean, for us, we never give lift to strangers.
Yeah.
Is one thing that we've always been told that, oh no, they
Yes.
will scam you, they will rob you, all sorts of things possible.
Yeah.
So first of all, getting a lift itself is like, wow, I'm so amazed. And then someone giving their car away is like,
Yes.
wow.
I know.
Okay.
And there
It's a
was
nice
one.
culture, man. It's a very, very nice culture. I like it.
Yes, yeah.
Mm.
It was very uplifting because also people would just be so generous and we would meet so many cool people who we were only meeting them because they were giving us a ride into town or back to the trailhead.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one time when so there was this woman who was we had run into her on the trail and she was hiking it by herself. And so like every
Wow.
couple days we would like see her and we learned that her dad, he was in a car and he was going through all the towns, but just driving from each town to town and then just
Mm-hmm.
helping her whenever she got to town. So it was like very cute. He was like following her
Very
trail
cute.
and like letting her hike it by herself. And he had their dog with them and they had like an older dog that like wouldn't be able to do all the hiking. So like it was very
Cute.
cute and like we had met him at one of the towns. And so at some point she was like, you know, my dad really wants to come here and for a few days just camp for like maybe
Mm-hmm.
3 days. But he doesn't know what to do with his car. And we're like, oh yeah, like I wonder what he's gonna do. And then we're like, wow, we don't know how we're gonna get into the next city because we're actually not really going to intercept like a public road. And then they're like, wait a minute, you guys take the car and then we'll just hike into that city. And that would be the perfect amount of time. It'll take us 3 days. And we were like, okay. And so then we go meet up this man. His car is a Tesla. Literally like this really nice, really nice, like just
Oh,
a new Tesla. And he was like, yeah, here's the keys. Get your car for the next 3 days. And we were like, what? And
he
they were
barely
like,
even knows your name.
I know. And he was like, you know, because he was in the towns, he was like, I heard that this other town nearby is having a rodeo, like a big rodeo show. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
should drive there and just like spend the night. And we're like, maybe we should. So we're like, okay, we're gonna go to a rodeo in a Tesla. Like, what is happening? And then even crazier was that we were going to this town, middle of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere. And we're like, oh, well, we don't have anywhere to stay, right? And I had a friend who used to live nearby, but now she lives in
Mm-hmm.
Denver. And I had called her and I was like, do you know of any places where like we could set up our tent? And she was like, you know, actually I have a friend who still lives there. Let me just call him and see if he knows. And then she calls us
Mm-hmm.
back 10 minutes later and she was like, oh, he says that you can stay at his house. Like, so we were like, what is going on right now? Like, this is just so bizarre. Like, everyone is,
Oh, yeah, there's something with that region.
yes,
There is some different level of trust that these guys have.
yeah.
Wow, and generous and everything
Hmm.
together, man. Wow.
I know. It was crazy. It was so crazy. But like, we were just laughing at us being in this night, like in the Tesla. Oh my God. We were like, what is going on?
Yeah, this
Oh,
sounds unreal.
yeah. And then also because Teslas are always, you have to charge them, right? So
Charge them, right? Hmm.
when we finally met back with them in the town, he was shocked that we had managed to charge it. Like we had found different charging ports. And he was like, oh, I just really honestly didn't know that you were going to be able to charge it. I thought that you guys were going to have to like, we were like, wait, what? You didn't think he was literally like, I'm so impressed that you guys found a way to charge this thing. And we were like, what was the plan if we couldn't charge it? Like we wouldn't be able to, we would be stranded. Like,
Real low expectations, I would say, but wow.
oh my gosh. Yeah. So a lot of
Oh,
hitchhiking and our families did not like that. They were like, please do not
yeah.
do that. But we're like, we actually have to. There's no
Yeah.
other option.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that at least I was wondering whether this fear of hitchhiking isn't something in my geography, but I'm
Ah,
glad to know that even your parents were like
yeah.
scared of you guys going hitchhiking or something. But it's unheard of over here, okay? Because here
Hmm.
we won't stop.
Yeah.
Maximum, there are people who, if you are on a bike, on a motorbike, and
Mhm.
then someone asks for a lift, sometimes they give it, like school kids and things like
Yeah.
that. You know, how much damage can they do? In
Yeah.
cars, it's almost, I mean, these days, it's almost unheard of getting
Yeah.
lift. But that's so sad. It's so nice. You can have such lovely experiences and stories and
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God. So you met a bunch of strangers on this trip where you
Yeah.
had great conversations and all.
Hmm.
Anyone became friends at the end of it?
Yes, yes. There were so many people that even just like for the last couple weeks, we were like bouncing back and forth with these different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because some of them like okay, so the other thing is that on the trail, it's very typical for through hikes in the
Mm-hmm.
US to like when you're on the trail, you're somebody gives you a trail name and that's the only name that people know you by. And so we were not that committed to this and we would like not really use trail names, but like everyone else was like very committed. And so like a lot of these people we
Okay.
don't know their real names. Like they would only tell us their trail name and sometimes they're like very funny or like weird trail names. This one woman, she was like, "Yeah, my name is Socks." Because she brought a million pairs of socks when like you're really only supposed to bring like two or three pairs because you're just on the trail.
Oh, I understand. I have this group of friends who they always, when they go on a trip, whichever country they're going to, they'll have that name. So they went to
Yeah,
Russia, so
yeah.
one was Vladimir, one was, they all, and all the pictures that they'll put up will
That's
have that.
funny.
Who is which one for someone who's not part of the trip? We know that they have this kind of tradition going. So,
Yeah.
so, oh man, you guys should have had some crazy, should picked up a song and picked up one of those names, one of your Taylor Swift
Yeah.
songs, because that was anyway one of your things going around,
The only one
themes.
that, well, John, he had like hiking poles that he would like
Mm,
hike with, but one of them
mm,
broke. And so he had to like, he couldn't use it. And so he just
mm.
had one and he was like really committed to using it, but it would make this hilarious sound that we had all just watched the Bridgerton season. I don't know if you've ever seen Bridgerton,
Of
but
course,
like,
yes.
okay, so you know how Lady Danbury walks with that
Mhm, yes,
cane?
yes,
It
yes,
would
yes.
sound exactly like that. And someone had called him. He was like, "Oh, okay, Lady Danbury." And we were like, "Oh, that's your
Danbury.
trail name."
Oh my God. Very, very good parallel drawing.
Hmm. Yep.
So both you girls didn't pick up any name at all.
Technically, we did. Okay, Tia's her name, she literally would not stop talking about the fact that she had gotten from a thrift store this cashmere hat. And we were like,
Mhm.
Tia, it's probably not real cashmere. But she's like, no, it is.
Thrift and Kashmir do not go together.
Exactly. But she was like, it's 100% cashmere. She would tell everyone this. So we started calling her cashmere because we were like, literally, like every day we would talk about this cashmere hat. Or like one time,
Hat.
she like, I literally watched her fall asleep. Her hat like kind of fell off her head a little bit. And then she woke up in a panic and she was like, did someone steal my cashmere hat? And we're like, first of all, it's not a cashmere hat. But second of all, no, it's literally underneath your head. So we called her Kashmir. And then for me,
Cute.
mine is so stupid. Oh my God. Basically,
I love it. You're looking so
it
embarrassed.
is embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. Okay, so on my leg, I have a tattoo of
Mm-hmm.
antlers, like deer antlers.
Mm-hmm.
And one day on the trail, this woman came up to me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you were a top 50 finisher of the Montana Sky Race." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, apparently, there is a very famous, really hard 100-mile mountain race where people run 100 miles, and the top 50 finishers get the exact tattoo that I have. And I have this tattoo for no reason at all. Like there is no underlying reason.
In your past life, you've done that. It's coming from there.
But like the only people who know about this race are the type of people who would also be doing a through hike. So like literally multiple people were like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "No, I did not I did not run this race." And so the race is named the Rut. And so
Okay.
that was my trail
Rut.
name. Rut.
Yeah, I'm glad you told the backstory.
Right.
Otherwise,
It's like rut.
the interpretation would have gone somewhere else altogether.
Exactly.
The backstory is a very nice backstory. So
Yes, exactly. I know. It was like, and then everyone's like, "Oh, what's your trail name?" And I'm like, Rut. Like the whole trail. I was like, oh my
the
God.
whole trip. Cute. I like it. I like this kind of traditions that get passed on.
Mhm.
So how did you guys plan finances through this entire thing? Is doing this, do you have to like, is it a costly affair or
Yeah, that's a good question. So it depends because for us, we were able to kind of, since all of our families have been backpacking and camping, we were able to like pool all the resources and like we all knew somebody who would have like all the supplies. If you
that's
don't
right.
have any of the supplies, it is so expensive because even backpacks and tents nowadays are just like so expensive. And it's actually funny because my mom moved a couple years ago to a different house, and literally in the basement of the new house, there were like 3 backpacks left behind that were just like brand new
Wow.
backpacks. So like we didn't have to pay for that, which was awesome.
My goodness.
Yeah,
Just like
so
manifesting
crazy,
kinds.
literally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the most expensive thing was just food, but at the same time, I calculated how much each week would cost. And it's like, if you think about it, buying packaged food like ramen, like just eating noodles,
That's
like
right.
it's actually so much cheaper than how you would normally eat anyways. So it's like actually
Correct.
balances out.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense, makes sense. What about stay when you went to all these towns?
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. There was one town where we like stayed in a hotel when we were there for the weekend. So like that was expensive. But then other times there are these things called like RV camps where
That's
like
right.
people who live in an RV can like camp for the night, and they always reserve a couple spots for tents, and you can stay there for like less than $10 or something and
Very
like
nice.
get to shower and like even do a load of laundry and if you're gonna spend the night. So that was like actually really, really
Oh,
nice.
very nice. That's
Yeah,
a very good
yeah,
service or facility that they have. Do you have
yeah.
hostels in such
Definitely.
places as well, like dorms and all of it?
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah. I would say that's the one thing that like doesn't really exist as much. Yeah. Hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, so around 6, 7 days of walking, and then
Mhm.
1 or 2 days in between is where you guys take rest in these towns that you go to.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, we typically like do some hiking into the town and then spend the night, and then the next day at some point we would get back on the trail.
So your town stops are primarily for food refueling as well as laundry.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Wonderful. And it makes it so much easier. Is this a part of the mapped Colorado Trail where these towns are mapped as well? Or do
Mm,
you have to discover these towns by going on a map and looking which is the closest
mm.
town and things like that?
I would say they've become more discovered, I think,
Okay.
recently. Like, for example, in some towns there will be like a church or some type of organization that
Oh,
tries to do things specifically for backpackers, but at the same time, it's still so remote that it like doesn't really exist that much. Like it's actually really hard to find. We were trying to map it out as much as possible beforehand, and it was like pretty difficult. But then once you're there, it's like super easy. So
okay.
it's definitely a mix of both.
And I like how you're saying we in this. I though most of the most of the planning was done by me myself, kinds.
No, literally. Yeah,
You very
literally.
generously you're putting it as a we. You're a
Funny.
very dear friend, man.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God.
Oh,
I'm waiting for your friends to listen in and laugh,
I
at
know.
all these
Oh my
points.
God. They will.
So I
Oh,
have heard there are a bunch of people who go on this Colorado trail and they like one of these towns and they say that, oh, this is the place where I want to retire and settle down for my life.
yes.
And then they finish the trail and whatever life, and then they come back and settle down, one of these
Yes.
towns. Do you also have a favorite like this where you
Oh,
think
oh
you
my gosh.
might
That's a good question. Oh God, do I have a favorite? Okay. Oh, there's so many good options. I really love, there's this town called Lake City, and it
Mm-hmm.
is just beautiful. And oh, it's just like a very small town
Mm-hmm.
and surrounded by the San Juan Mountains. Perfect. It is immaculate. And so many people will just move there for the summer or something. Oh, it was perfect. But then at the same time, I love Southern Colorado just with my family being there. And my uncle used to live in Durango, which is the
Mm-hmm.
last town on the trail.
That's
So
right.
that's like
Mm-hmm.
the end. And I would totally move there in a heartbeat. Actually, if I cannot go this summer to India, I
Mm-hmm.
will probably go stay with them for the summer, which would be wonderful, and study
Oh.
Bengali from a bedroom.
How is the weather in Colorado in the summers? And when you say summers, what is which
Mm.
is the summer month? Like, is it May, June, July, or is it June, July, August? What is
Yeah, June,
summer?
July, August.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so nice in the mountains because it is still very cold at night. And then the sun comes and it's like so warm.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it actually is, it's almost identical to kind of the mountain weather in the Himalayas as well.
That's right. Hmm.
Yeah,
So what do
yeah,
you wear? Because if you're saying it's so hot during the day, I think you'll be in shorts during the day, and then it gets cold as soon as the sun sets. So then you have to get layers on. So
yeah.
what kind of clothes did you carry for this specific trail?
Okay, so I wore the same outfit the entire time. And it was
Good
basically
job.
because my skin will burn so quickly, and I didn't want to keep
Oh.
applying sunscreen because then I'd have to carry so much sunscreen. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, my idea was that I would wear like this very lightweight hoodie and
Mm-hmm.
then these lightweight long pants. So like
Mm-hmm.
I was covered head to toe and the sunlight never touched my skin.
Wow.
Which
And
was
full
nice,
sleeves.
but then it would get hot.
Yeah. I'm guessing that you're using a hoodie.
I know,
Okay,
yeah.
pants, okay. Pants you can manage with really thin ones now, but hoodie is a big thing.
Yeah. I'll send you a photo. It was very lightweight, so that was good. But it was also
Okay.
like I would either be sweating, dying of heat, or like I'd be cold. So
Two extremes.
yeah, two extremes.
Yeah. Yeah, because when I was looking through photographs and blogs of the trail before we spoke, so I
Yeah.
wanted to get an idea of what it was. And I saw everyone only in shorts and
Yeah.
in the day, and then they'll
Yes.
all get wrapped up by evening when
Yeah.
once they enter the tents, everything will be on.
Yeah.
But one thing that I never saw was this fantastic this food thing that you mentioned about what bear safe food or
Yeah.
whatever. That is something very interesting. I did not look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like we would joke that there's no way that this actually deters a bear because like, we're like, there's no way. We're like, we kind of want to
Yeah.
see a bear eat our food just to, that it can.
Bears are very determined. What? Yeah, one yank, I think it'll
Yeah,
all open up. Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
My God, phenomenally gorgeous stories, man. I
Oh,
love it. So tell me, in this all the different hikes and trails and
mm,
locations and all that, do you have a favorite? I'm sure Colorado will be one of the top because you were with two of your best friends. But
mm,
okay, other than Colorado, what might be your very close to your heart?
mm. I mean, definitely the time in Ladakh was phenomenal just because also, well, that was a trail that I didn't plan at all, and my
Mhm.
professor had hiked many times, and so I was kind of able to like take a step back. I mean, I think it's just a totally different experience to like be planning and then like you're trying to read the weather the entire time and like you're hyper aware. And then there's a
That's right.
different experience to like kind of being more relaxed. And so it was nice to have that experience first before the Colorado Trail to like feel like I was capable of doing the next thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Ladakh is just so beautiful, and I love yaks. They are like the best animal in the world. Oh my gosh. And so seeing a yak, I remember we only saw one other group of people like one night. We were really not seeing anyone else. And they were sleeping in their tents like in the middle of the day. And this group of yaks came out and I was so excited that like I didn't even think about it, but I like woke these people up and I was like, "Hi, just so you know, there's yaks. Like you have to see this." And it was this French couple, and they literally were like, "We're sleeping." I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." But in my head, I'm like, "I'm sorry. You don't sleep while there's a group of yaks coming through the valley.
Yes.
Like you watch the yaks." But
Yes.
like
Priorities,
literally
woman, priorities.
priorities. I'm like, "You can sleep later."
Oh man. So which is this route in Ladakh that you went? Is there a name for the specific trail?
I don't know if there's a name for the trail. I'll
Okay.
definitely find the names of the towns we started and ended from, but it was also like we didn't stick to the plan at all. I
Mhm.
don't know what the original plan even was. But
But you guys had a good time.
yeah, the two of them were the two art historians. They wanted to see certain places, but then we would end up going elsewhere too. So,
So these places were what monasteries that you were
yeah.
visiting? Okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
mostly monasteries, and they were studying like specifically these sculptures of a Buddhist deity Avalokiteshvara that were like white marble sculptures.
Right.
Yeah, and then also different wall paintings. Um, that was really interesting too. And we would like it was so funny because it was like a seasonal time for different celebrations of different Buddhist
Mhm.
festivals, I guess. And one called Boom Score, where like all the manuscripts from the monasteries are kind of like taken to each agricultural center of the village. And they're all technically like in theory supposed to happen on the same day. So like
Okay.
in theory we wouldn't be able to see multiple because like they're all
Mm-hmm.
happening at the same time. But for some
Simultaneously. Mhm.
reason, every village we went to was on the day of their boom score. And it was like this weird thing where we were like following them and people would be like, "Yeah, we were supposed to have it a few days ago, but like the head Rinpoche, he was late. He had to come like a few days later. So like we just did it on this day." And then the next village would be like, "Oh yeah, we were supposed to do it on that day, but we ended up." So it was like this weird thing of like
Wow.
we literally like it was so amazing and it was like
Oh, lovely.
wild that it happened multiple times. Like it was very, very cool.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a fantastic coincidence when you see that, when you don't
Yeah.
even plan for it and you get to be a part of any kind of festival celebration
Yes.
or a march or whatever these kind of things that they have. Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always the surprise makes it extra special.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ellie, you managed your entire Ladakh trip without knowing much Hindi, right? Because you did your Jaipur stint after this trip, correct?
Yeah, very bad Hindi. So, how many languages do you know?
I'm very fluent in English and Hindi.
Mm-hmm.
I have studied Bengali because that's where I grew up.
Mm.
My mother tongue is Tamil.
Okay.
I'm not very fluent in that. So if my friends listen to me saying that I know I'm good at Tamil, and they listen to this podcast, they'll just brush me aside. I live in Karnataka, another state in South India,
Okay.
so I can understand the local language here called Kannada.
Yeah.
My husband is from this place called Gujarat, which is in West India, and all his friends are Gujarati, so I can
Oh my
understand
gosh.
Gujarati to an extent.
Wow. Wow.
But international languages, I know none except English.
Oh my gosh. That is okay.
That's one thing I want to work on. I want to know at least one
Really
language, one international
interesting.
language outside.
Huh. It's
I
also,
hope
I
so.
feel
I hope
like
so.
it's so much easier to go from, in my opinion, like
Mhm.
English to French or Spanish. There's a lot of overlapping words. And
Oh,
so,
really?
yeah,
Let me see. I have to think,
yeah.
where am I going vacationing next, and I'll just choose that particular
Yes,
country or something like
exactly.
that. So I can do some practice over there as well. So there is this one lady that I had on my podcast. She learned Spanish, but
Mm,
she really wanted to practice Spanish and she wanted to do something about it. I want to have good conversational Spanish. So what
mm,
she did is she reached out to some of her friends, saying that, I want to go and stay in Spain for a few weeks or a couple of months because I want to learn this language. So
yeah.
what the friend, people who connected her, they found a family in the south of Spain
Oh my gosh.
who wanted to learn. They had just turned vegan, and Spain has nothing called vegan. The concept called veganism is absent.
Oh.
So they wanted someone to teach them vegan recipes, for their family. This lady is vegetarian, so she went to Spain. She stayed with them for 6 weeks, taught them, all sorts of vegan recipes. In turn, she learned a lot of Spanish through. It's almost like an
Wow.
exchange course kinds. And she said it was such a good time spending, she spent time with the local family. How else can you have such an experience, right? You're staying with a local family, you know how it works. And then weekends, they used to all travel together. It was a gorgeous summer town of Spain, and they used to go to the
Oh,
beach, and they used to have, pani puri parties on the beach. And
oh,
I
wow.
was so jealous of the entire episode. I'm like, this is no, my God, I'm so jealous of you guys.
Wow, that's like a
Yeah,
dream. Are you kidding me?
I know.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it's too
so
perfect.
cool. Are you vegetarian or do you have
I
any like,
am.
oh yeah, okay,
I
same,
am a vegetarian.
same.
Yes. So when I asked her, so when you went to teach them, vegan recipes, what did you carry? She said, I carried 14 kgs of just food from India and went. So things like tamarind and,
Yeah.
some specific spices and masalas and all that. So
Mm.
14 kgs of just food. And then there's some closer I took, and then I went with that. I'm like, this sounds just too perfect, man.
Yeah.
I asked her, can you give me some tips and tricks to find such local families? It's like
Yeah.
just a good friend circle. That's about it. I cannot
Oh,
help any other way.
oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. There should have been some Airbnb or, some kind of beautiful forum where you can do something like this, an exchange house program.
Have you heard of it's called woofing? So I have
Okay.
some friends who do this. So it's basically the idea is like, and this sounds kind of crazy, but like what ends up happening, so there's people can market their home farms and say that if you come work and like learn how to farm in this specific way, so it's typically like very small scale organic
Mhm.
farming,
Mhm.
you can stay here for free and you get free room, free food, but like you will be working. And that sounds in my it's funny because right now like right now I'm studying in one of my classes like
Mhm.
medieval feudalism and peasantry and in my head I'm like, wait a minute. But I have a lot of friends who have done this and stayed in so many different areas because of this and like learned how to farm in different ways. And so there's a lot of them in the United States, but then there's also abroad different ones because I have
Mhm.
a friend who did one in South Korea at a strawberry farm and he was working, but in return he would get free room and board. So, yeah, there's
Wow.
that program, which is that it's an
A lot of
interesting
physical
approach.
labor, so I'm not sure I want to do physical labor.
I know now that I'm saying it
But
out loud, I've actually
hmm.
never thought about how kind of insane that sounds. But
Yeah, but when you're saying it, I'm again connecting. This is something I don't remember which country it was. His friend of mine said that he had visited that country where he met one of his
mhm,
very old friends who was staying in one of these farm things where she was doing farming, and they had something like, you get 2 hours of fresh water per week,
mhm.
just 2 hours of fresh water. So you have to fill buckets
Oh my
and keep
gosh.
with you. Dude, I can't do such things, man. I'm too
Yeah.
much of a city girl, I think now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very interesting, however.
Yeah.
Depends on the country, maybe, or depends on the kind of place that you want to do something like this.
Yeah.
Woofing is that I should see what this actually means. Interesting.
Hmm.
There's one movie, right, where this girl, the two of them exchange houses. The one goes there for winters, the other one comes
Oh
here for the
yes. Oh my
winters.
gosh.
It's
I
a
can
really
picture it.
popular movie. Yeah,
Yes.
Holiday. Maybe was it
Yes,
Holiday?
it is the holiday. Yes, Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz, right? And one goes to a really posh house, the other one
Yes.
goes to a complete farm kind of place.
Yeah.
And yeah, oh my God, we are going on an entire
I
tangent here
know.
and there. Yeah. So how
Exactly.
long was this Ladakh trek, hike?
Yeah. So part of the time in Ladakh, we were staying like in one village in a house and not trekking. But then
Mm-hmm.
like throughout the day, we would like well, I mean, honestly, we were hiking every single day, but we weren't
Okay.
backpacking. And then the actual backpacking took place for like 6 days
Okay.
outside of that, continuously 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
There were other times when we would like hike to one village, spend the night, and then come back. But like the only continuous chunk of time was 6 days. So yeah.
Oh, how perfect. Now, it's like this 2 months of, it's almost vacation. Every morning getting up. You don't have to worry about packing your bags or packing your tent. You just go have a gorgeous, hike, trail through villages, whatever, farms. Come back at night and go back to sleep. In the morning, get up and get out again.
Exactly.
Perfect that is, right? Yeah. So I had done this one project in Himachal Pradesh, and I worked with an NGO there. So our work was to empower the women over in that village to get them to do their, small businesses and all of it. And so every day we had to, again, just like how you were saying, we woke up in the morning, we packed our tiffin boxes and we went out to the villages. So every day we were going to different villages around. It was not a trek at all. It was all flat lands, but because you had mountains all around the place and beautiful villages. I mean, those khet bolte na, you have this khet and paid and fruits hanging from there. We could literally take the berries and eat them. Oh, it was such a beautiful experience. An entire, it was, I think, close to 2 months. Oh my God, I cannot tell. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And then we did small, 2-day long hikes here and there and things that once in a while. So I loved, and listening to your Ladakh thing, I had an immediate throwback to that stay of mine.
Next you come to Colorado.
I just got my visa renewed, so I'm all set.
No way, really? Oh my gosh. Wait, do you know when you're going to come?
Literally it's been a month. That's it. First, you come here. We have to go to Shantiniketan together, Murshidabad. I have a bunch of places that I'm planning for. So
we'll do that.
Make the trip happen.
Yes.
And if you're coming to Calcutta side, I'll visit you and we'll go around somewhere.
Perfect. Yes.
Just that I'm a little scared that you'll just plan a hike somewhere in between. I'm like, oh my God. So I'll get my shoes for a hike. Very high chances that you'll do something spontaneously like that.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, we'll definitely plan some. There are a bunch of really nice places in the East,
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yes, we'll make it happen. Ellie, I had a wonderful time talking to you. You're just so full of energy. I mean, I think I've smiled nonstop for the last, 2.5 hours. Nonstop, I've smiled. It's such lovely stories. You're a storyteller, man.
Oh my gosh, no, you are the one asking these good questions. And also, it's so good at just jogging my memory. Like so many things that I didn't even think about until now. So
that's what storytelling does.
Yeah.
And that's why I love doing this podcast, man. I mean, the travel stories that keep coming out are so fun, so fun. It's really one of those, like how you say, overlapping work and what you love. For me also, it's like 100% overlap. I don't have any outside part in the Venn diagram at all.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your time, Ellie. I had a beautiful time. In the middle of all your PhD and thesis and classes and all, you've taken time to talk to me. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to talk to you. So yes, hopefully soon again, we will be able to catch up.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
What an enjoyable conversation this was with Ellie. And genuinely, I don't think I have laughed this much while recording in a long time. You can follow Ellie on Instagram. She is Ellie_Penner. That is ELLIE_PENNER. We link up her page in our show notes. Also, we've recently launched a travel journal, a journal that is perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking little knickknacks. Pick one for yourself, gift it to your friend or to a kid. It will be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find the link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and see you in our next episode. Bye-bye.